Have you ever felt like you're alive, but you're not living? As if the days pass before you without leaving marks, without soul, without purpose. A void that does not scream, but corrodes silently inside. And maybe you tried to fill it with conquests, distractions, applause, but nothing's enough. Because the problem is not in the chaos around, it's in how you've been putting yourself before him. Stoicism, this philosophy that was born in the midst of wars and losses, does not promise to escape pain. It offers something rarer, to cross it with dignity. Life does not need to be in order to make sense. It needs only one axis, internal, firm, essential. This video is an invitation to rediscover this axis, to come back to you, to discover purpose not in great answers, but in small acts of courage. And in the end, perhaps the emptiness that seemed eternal reveals itself only space, hoping to be inhabited by a new consciousness. And to mark this moment of transformation, I invite you to do something for yourself, something simple, but very powerful. Go to the comments and write. Go to the comments and write. Today I start building myself. It's not just a phrase, it's a silent pact with its own evolution. Now let's get started. Chapter 1. Face the void, instead of running away from it. Have you noticed how the void chases you in moments of silence? When the noise ends, when the phone is away, when there is no distraction in sight, there it is. An invisible hole that seems to grow in the center of the chest, as if something essential was missing. And maybe it is, but not in the way you imagine. Most people feeling that void, run, turn on the TV way, open Instagram, go out to drink, do anything to keep you from that subtle but insistent discomfort. As if avoiding feeling was the same as solving, as if the void was an enemy. But what if it was a sign, a portal? Facing the void is like entering a dark cave. At first, everything is uncertainty, but it is there, in the absence of light, that you begin to see with other eyes. The emptiness only hurts because you stopped listening to yourself, because you have gone so far from who you are that you now miss, and you don't know what else. Running away from it is prolonging the abyss. Facing it is starting to rebuild. The truth is that emptiness does not arise from nothing. It is the result of a life lived in the automatic, from decisions made to please, not to grow, from paths chosen by fear, not by truth. When you distance yourself from your values, from your innermost principles, the soul gets sick, and emptiness appears as a symptom. But he can also be a cure. Instead of filling it with distractions, sit with it. Listen to what he tries to tell you. Maybe it shows you that your routine is suffocating, that your relationships are empty of authenticity, that your career is stable, but it doesn't expand you. Empty is the soul screaming for meaning, and meaning you don't buy, you don't seek out. It reveals itself when you stop running. Imagine being in the center of a hurricane, where everything revolves around in insane speed, but there is an absolute calm point right in the middle. That point is you, when you stop running, when you face pain without anesthesia, when you start asking difficult questions even without guarantees of response. It is in this place that Stoicism is born, not as a manual of happiness, but as an anchor in chaos. You don't need to understand everything now. Just stop pretending you're not feeling it. Just say, yes, there's a void in me, and I'm going to face it. From there, something changes. You stop looking for distractions and start looking for direction. Stop following others and start listening to yourself. Facing emptiness is painful, yes, but it is 1,000 times more liberating than continuing to pretend that it does not exist. The pain you avoid imprisons you. The pain you face transforms you. This is the first step. Sit down with the bother. Look him in the eyes. Let him speak. Because he always has something to say. And often, what he says is simple and brutal. You're not where you should be. Stoicism teaches us that discomfort is part of life, and that when we embrace it courageously, it ceases to be an enemy and becomes a guide. Meaningless life is not a condemnation. It is an invitation. Face the void because it's there, and only there, that begins the way back to you. Chapter 2. Separate what you can control from what you cannot. The root of almost all human anguish is in silent but devastating confusion, trying to control what does not belong to us and neglect what is our responsibility. Life begins to weigh when we begin to collect expectations about the world, about people, about the future, as if everything around us should obey our desires, as if the universe owed us something. But the universe promises no obedience. It's indomitable, and while you're trying to master it, you're losing control of yourself. There is immense freedom to recognize that total control is an illusion, that you have no power over the climate, over the reactions of others, about the random events that cross your path. And at the same time, there is an even greater force to remember, that you have absolute power over your choices, your attitude, your vision of each situation. You may not control the sea, but you can learn to sail. This is where Stoicism becomes more than philosophy. It becomes survival. Because in the midst of chaos, when everything falls apart, employment, relationship, health, stability, you can still choose how you behave. You can still choose how to interpret. You can still choose who you want to be, even without control over what is happening. This distinction between what is yours and what is of the world is like a sword that cuts off the invisible bonds of anxiety. When you stop trying to change the other, when you release the past, when you release control over the future, there is room to act in the present. And it is only in the present that transformation is possible. How many times have you exhausted yourself trying to convince someone to understand you, to love you back? How many nights have you missed predicting tragedies that never happened? How many conversations have you mentally remade, trying to change what you've been through? All these are wars fought in the field of the uncontrollable, and you get hurt from all of them. Separating what you can control from what you can't is an act of humility and courage. Humility to accept the limits of life. Courage to take responsibility for yourself. Imagine that your mind is a house. In one room, you keep everything you can control. Your thoughts, your discipline, your reactions, your focus. In the other, there are all the noises, the opinion of others, the past, the future, the chance. Every time you leave your room and try to fix what is in the other, you lose time, energy, peace. But when you stay inside what is yours, you strengthen every wall, every pillar, and gradually this house becomes unshakable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over events. Notice this, and you will find strength." That phrase is not consolation. It is revolution, because when you realize this, you cease to be a victim, and you begin to become an author. You don't control whether it's going to rain tomorrow, but you can decide to go out with an umbrella. You don't control whether you'll be promoted, but you can work with excellence. You don't control whether someone will disappoint you, but you can choose how you'll react to disappointment. The difference between suffering and serenity is often in that choice. The world will continue to disobey your wills. People will continue to be unpredictable, but it doesn't have to destroy you, because as long as everything around you changes, you can be constant in yourself. Perhaps the great wisdom of life is in understanding that the control that matters most is what we have about how we choose to live, even when everything seems out of place. You can resist, fight the current, shout at the wind. Or you can do what the wise do, take a deep breath, adjust the candles and move on, with serenity, even without knowing where all this will go. Because the sense in the end is not in controlling the world. It is in knowing who you want to be within it. Chapter 3. Live by principles, not just by goals. There is a brutal difference between having a life driven by goals and living guided by principles. Goals are like arrows thrown in the dark. They can hit or not. They are external targets, often driven by validation, vanity, comparison. On the other hand, principles are roots. They do not change with the wind. Do not give in to pressure. They are what keeps you standing when everything falls apart. Goals make you run. Principles teach you why to run and when to stop. We live in a culture obsessed with results. Win, break records, accumulate. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? They ask. Few have the courage to answer. I want to be someone who remains faithful to who you are, even when no one is looking. Because goals respond to what? Principles respond to how and to why. You can conquer everything you want and still feel empty. You can reach the ideal body, the bank account of dreams, the applause you always wanted, and still look in the mirror and not recognize yourself. Because on the way, you may have betrayed values, run over consciousness, become someone you do not respect. Was it worth it? True solidity is not in what you achieve, but in what you sustain. Principles are that firm ground, and it is they who prevent you from getting lost when the world offers you bright shortcuts. Justice, integrity, courage, compassion. Words that seem too big, but that apply in the slightest gestures. To be just is not to be silent when you see an injustice at work. It is not to use the other's error as a ladder to your advantage. To have integrity is to say no when everyone says yes, because you know that it hurts something inside you. Courage is to face difficult conversations, even tremendous. And compassion is to see the other beyond your faults. Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop arguing about what it means to be a good person. Be one." That requires principles, and it requires presence. Because when you live only by goals, you begin to justify everything by the result. Thanks, because it worked out, so it's okay. But is it? You can lie and get promoted. You can manipulate and conquer. You can cheat and win. But what exactly are you winning? Principles are not moralism, they are compasses. They do not prevent you from falling, but they show you how to live with dignity. They are what remains when all goals fail. They are what remains when life turns you inside out. They are what no one can take from you. Living by principle isn't the fastest way, but it's the deepest. And in the end, it's the only one that gets you anywhere worth being. When you exchange goals for principles, you stop measuring success by external metrics and start measuring for internal coherence. You start sleeping better because your conscience is clean. You start talking less and hearing more. You start acting, not to impress, but to honor. And even if no one sees it, you'll see it. There is a rare peace in knowing that you are faithful to yourself, that your steps have direction, that your character does not depend on applause. That peace has no price, and it is not achieved with goals. It is cultivated with principles. So ask yourself, if you took everything you have today, your achievements, your titles, your image, what would be left of it? Would there be anything left that would still make you proud? If the answer is yes, it's because you're building your life on what really matters. Chapter 4. Serve others to find meaning. There is a silent point in the walk of those who seek purpose in the midst of chaos. The moment when they realize that living only for themselves is too narrow a road. You can conquer the whole world, accumulate prizes, status, comfort. But if all this ends in you, something will start to rot inside. The ego, when isolated, rots. And the soul, when it does not find a place to serve, suffocates in the reflection itself. It's not about being holy, selfless, or perfect. It's about understanding that there's a part of our emptiness that only fills up when we become an answer to someone. The Stoic idea of cosmopolitanism, of belonging to a large universal community, is not only poetic, it is practical. It is a reminder that you are not only here to survive or stand out, but to contribute, to be useful, to make a difference, even if small. And that utility doesn't have to be great. Sometimes, to serve is to listen to someone without interrupting. It is to send a sincere message to those who have disappeared. It is to offer their time, their presence, their patience. In a world where everyone is trying to be seen, who sees the other becomes rare. The problem is that we were taught to seek meaning in personal accomplishments. The idea of being someone became synonymous with being admired. But the real someone is the one who transforms, who touches, who leaves invisible marks, not on stage, but in the lives around. The beauty of this is that when you serve, you heal too. The other is not only the beneficiary, it becomes a mirror. And through it, you see parts of yourself that were asleep. Discover forces that you did not know how to have. And it reframes old pains by realizing that they can now be the path of empathy. Seneca said, "There is no more true joy than making someone's life better." He spoke not of institutional charity, but of presence, of genuine care, of being whole in small acts. How many times have you felt better just by helping someone, even though you were bad? How many times did the answer you needed come just when you were listening and not talking? This happens because serving breaks the bubble of the ego, pulls you out of the center, and puts you in motion. And in motion, the sense appears. And here's a truth that nobody tells you. Helping others isn't just a gesture of kindness. It's an emotional survival strategy. Because when your life seems meaningless, sometimes the shortest way back to you is to make sense in someone else's life. So, my friend, when everything seems dark, instead of asking yourself, "What is missing from me?" ask, "Who can I be light to now?" That simple question has the power to change a day or a lifetime. And when you begin to live like this, with your heart turned outward, but rooted in you, you will realize that the void begins to give way, and that gradually something new begins to be born. Not a screamed sense, but a firm whisper saying, "It's this way." Chapter 5. Use pain as fuel to grow. The pain, my friend, she has a bad name. They taught us that pain is a mistake, a failure in the system, that if it hurts, something needs to be eliminated, avoided, silenced. And so we were educated to run from trouble, to fear suffering, to seek relief as if it were salvation. But Stoicism, this philosophy born in the heat of loss and not in the comfort of conquests, offers you another look, one that few dare to face. What pain, when understood, can be exactly what you need most. Does it seem absurd? Maybe. But think to me, what was the time of your life when you really grew up? When everything was easy? When everything went as expected? Or was it in that fall that forced you to rebuild? Pain has a role that no other experience can occupy. It reveals. It reveals what you really value. It reveals where your weaknesses are. It reveals what is non-negotiable to you. When life presses you, that is where your essence appears. Not what you show others, but what you really are. But for that, you need to change the focus. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Marcus Aurelius wrote in his diary while losing children and facing betrayals in the empire, "What is happening is necessary. It is part of the whole." He did not say this because he was insensitive, but because he had understood that resisting pain does not prevent it from existing. It only makes it useless. He already accepts it as part of the process, transforms. And to transform pain is not to romanticize suffering. It is not to cling to sadness. It is to recognize that it exists, yes, but that you still have a choice about what you will do with it. You can use the pain to sink into guilt, victimism, bitterness, or you can use it as fertile soil to create something stronger in you. Every scar can be a map, every flaw, every step, but that only happens when you stop running and start listening to what you're feeling. Really, pain often doesn't want to destroy you, and the awakening is hard. It's like being ripped out of a comfortable dream to face the cold of reality, but it's right there that real life happens. Did you ever think that maybe the pain that scarred you the most was also the one that shaped you the most? Maybe it was that rejection that taught you to value yourself, the loss that showed you the value of now, the loneliness that made you plunge into yourself and discover a force that you had no idea you had. This is what Stoicism proposes, not the absence of pain, but the domination of what it does to you. Epictetus, who was enslaved and mutilated as a young man, said, "What matters is not what happens to you, but how you react to what happens." He did not say this from a palace, but from the raw experience of life. What if he managed to turn suffering into wisdom? Who are we to think we can't? The key is to choose not to be just a passive receptor of pain, but an alchemist. Someone who takes the lead of suffering and with daily effort transforms it into inner gold, character, patience, humility, clarity. So the next time the pain hits, because it will hit, nobody escapes. Don't ask when will it pass, but who can I become because of this? Because, my friend, what really makes you grow up is not the applause or the sunny days. It's the silence of the early mornings when you almost gave up. But you didn't give up. It's the weight you carried even without anyone see. It's the crying that's become strength. It's the fall that's become an impulse. Use the pain, not as an anchor, but as an engine. Not to cling to the past, but to build a stronger gift. Not to close the heart, but to open the conscience. That's what turns pain into power, and you into someone who not only survives, but is reborn. Chapter 6. Organize your time as if each day were unique. Do you realize how we treat time like it's infinite? We woke up, looked at the clock, fulfilled obligations, pushed dreams to after, as if the after were guaranteed, as if life were waiting patiently while we distracted the mind with notifications, hasty routines, and promises that never come out of the paper. But time doesn't wait. He doesn't tell you when it's over. He doesn't give you any clear signals. He just goes, like the sand flowing between his fingers, and by the time you realize it, it's gone. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You act as if you have unlimited time, but you are dying every moment." Hard? Yes, but deeply true. Because only when you face the finitude of time do you begin to value it. And more than that, you begin to organize it not in haste, but with purpose. Organizing time is not filling the agenda. It is not becoming a high-performance robot. It is learning to differentiate what matters from what only occupies space. It is leaving the urgent mode and entering the essential mode. Every day is a page, and what you write in it will compose the story of your life, whether you like it or not. When you say yes to everything, you are saying no to what you build. When you live in automatic, it is only existing, not living. Stoicism calls you back to the center. It invites you to make your routine a conscious act, to understand that every morning can be a fresh start, that every night can be a cycle closure, that every second can be sacred, if you decide that way. Think of this. If you had just one more month to live, what would change in your way of using time? With whom would you stop spending energy? What would you stop postponing? How many coffees would you take more attention? How many more hugs would it take? What's to stop you from living like this now? The truth is that organizing time begins with a simple but powerful question. What am I doing now? Is it getting me closer or away from the life I want to have? And if the answer is leave, perhaps it is time to stop, to adjust the course, to remember that time, unlike money, when spent, does not return. To organize time is to organize the mind. It is to come out of confusion to clarity. It is to transform ordinary days into fertile soil for an extraordinary life. Because a routine well aligned to its values has more transformation power than a grand plan that is never executed. And that requires choices. Saying no to what is distracting. Silence the noise that pushes you away from you. Create small rituals. Waking up with intent, setting aside time to reflect, writing down what you feel, planning what you want to build, not just for the world to see, but for you to honor your own walk. Epictetus taught that we should live as if we were in a play. We did not choose the role, but we can perform it with excellence. His role today is to take care of his time as the most precious good he has, because he is. So don't live like you're 1,000 years old. Live like you know every day is a chance to live with more truth, more presence, more direction. Because in the end, my friend, the time you have will not be measured by the clock hands, but by what you did to it while pulsating. Number 7, practice gratitude every day. There's a subtle but powerful change that happens when you stop focusing on what's missing and start recognizing what's already there. We live surrounded by stimuli that feed scarcity, propaganda that tell you what you should have, social networks that show you who you should be, comparisons that convince you that your life is not yet enough. And in that noise, gratitude is disappearing, silently, like a perfume that evaporates in the air. But the absence of gratitude is the beginning of blindness. When you stop saying thank you, you start believing that you have nothing. And when you believe in it, everything loses value. The smile of those who love you becomes routine. The food on the table becomes obligation. Your body, which carries you every day, becomes a burden. The morning that is born out there goes unnoticed by the closed window of haste. That is why Stoics insisted so much on gratitude, not as a magic formula of well-being, but as an exercise of lucidity. To see, to wake up. Seneca said, "Nothing is more honorable than gratitude," because it is an act of resistance against automatism, against chronic dissatisfaction, against the illusion that something is always lacking. Gratitude is not conforming. It is recognizing. It is looking around with more alive eyes and realizing that abundance seldom screams. It whispers. And that whisper is everywhere. In the hot coffee you hold in your hands. In the silence of a moment of your own. In the embrace that took you in a difficult day. In the learning that came with the pain. In the strength that sprang when you thought you couldn't take it anymore. Gratitude doesn't need extraordinary events, it needs attention and presence. You do not have to wait for great achievements to thank. On the contrary, it is the small thanks that build a great life. And the daily practice of gratitude is like lighting lights within you. Gradually, the dark corners of dissatisfaction are dissolving, and what remains is clarity. A grateful Stoic is not someone naive, it's someone awake. It's who has learned to see beauty even in pain, opportunity even in failure, miracle even in routine. Because deep down, everything can teach, everything can offer. And when you start to thank for everything, even for what didn't work out, something inside you changes. The heart expands, the mind settles, and the soul begins to feel that it is, at last, in the right place. Start with the simple. 3 things every morning or every night. 3 reasons to say thank you. It may be a name, a gesture, a piece of sun through the window. And one day when you least expect, you will realize that you have come to live with another vibration, not that of lack, but that of abundance. And my friend, living with gratitude is the noblest of riches, because those who are grateful already have everything. I sincerely hope that this message has been helpful. I sincerely want to congratulate you for coming this far and completing the video. That means that you want to improve as a person. If you liked the video, leave your comment. If you don't know what to say, comment gratitude. Then I'll know that you've watched until the end. If you're not already on the channel, what are you waiting for? Sign up now and join us. Stoicism is full of teachings like this, which are applicable to our everyday life. Therefore, I encourage you to continue learning about this philosophy. I leave here 2 videos full of Stoic wisdom, so you can continue learning. Until next.